the carry for his team into a composition for Red that has its holes. It's going to have to make stuff happen early. An Avenger, yeah, there's a lot of onus on him. Opting into the fleet footwork here. Titan, lethal tempo. Fleet footwork for Trigo. Ooh, here we go. This could be spicy. Furia taking no prisoners right now, Curry. Running the comment on the Soraka. Yeah, I'm really interested to see how this one goes. I'm really excited for this bottom lane matchup.
Furia, interestingly, Red opt to send members to spot out Goot's early pathing in lieu of contesting this bottom wave. Maybe the read is that Titan and Curry would just have too much difficulty getting in anyway. Trigo and Redbird would get control regardless of whether or not he gets turrets down. So, hey, let's just give it up. And again, if we're looking at Goot and Envy to be the catalyst for this game, spotting out Goot will help you get through the early game. Because again, Avenger, you can see it with the fleet footwork. His job is just to not let mid lane become a power vacuum, because what we've not really talked about is these pushing side lanes. Furia theoretically has 3 winning lanes, which is why you need to be able to control mid, because otherwise you're just going to get dove on repeat. They're going to start invading Aegis and making his life difficult as well. So you've got to find a win somewhere as Red to be able to survive this early game as best you can.
Yeah, it doesn't look good, right? Those the winning lanes that you talked about, the Heimerdinger Jhin has warped the meta to such an incredible degree. I think the only thing you're hoping for here is that Redbird isn't super comfortable on this Heimerdinger. He's played at this split, but he looks like a different player when he's allowed to get out of lane and affect the map otherwise. That's something that I'm absolutely going to be watching, because that can be another engine for this team. Goot, pretty high floor, low ceiling jungler, in my opinion. All respect to him. He just kind of made a living off Viega. I'm a little more cynical on Goot. Look, you don't run into a 14-2, 13-3 record like you did last split on accident, and supplanted Ranger as the jungler of this Furia squad. Ranger got COVID week 1 of split 2 last year. Goot stepped in for him, and like Joe DiMaggio, just never let that spot go. Aegis now looking for a gank again. We've got melee in with the Arctic Assault. All right, Avenger laying down the damage. Nice, gets a flash out of Envy, flashes himself to go forward. Goot, very nice stun there with the flash forward as well. And first blood picked up by the jungler that I just got done maligning, and they might get 2 here. Aegis trying to take someone down with him. No dice, 2 kills for Goot. All right, I ate my words. Fine, Goot.
Good with a nice counter gank, but honestly, I think that was just Red going too deep. I like the gank. You can't let mid become a power vacuum. So what do? You get Avenger on the board early, but they didn't quite have the damage fast enough before Envy was able to make it to his jungler. Avenger was out of energy, and it's a double kill picked up for the jungler of Furia. Once again, Envy just playing so respectfully, hovering towards the side that his jungler's on already, and the aggression here, it looks like they're going to be able to get the kill, but Avenger barely doesn't have enough energy to cast the 5-point strike again. It's 130 early on into the game. Such an expensive spell. I think if that one got off, and MV goes down, but instead it gets completely flipped on their head. And if we need them to get ahead, that's a good start. But they're going to trade one back, so Red at least gets something.
Well, they're making no bones about where they want this attention to go in the early game. You hit the nail right on the head. I think you and the Red coaching staff and players are right on the same page. Curry getting ignited and having to be taken out of this fight. Blew both his summoners. Redbird dropping his ignite as well. Trigo, 2021 Pain logo coming up. He was on that roster in 2022. But yeah. Oh, Redbird flashing forward, blowing the flash from Titan, and returning the damage pretty well with the Boomerang Blade as well.
Oh, this is so bad for Red, though. This wave is pushing away from Titan. No flash, can't step up to it until support gets back. And Aegis giving up everything to make that mid play. Credit where credit's due. Finding a kill, but it goes on to him. It's not even onto Avenger, so Avenger's still going to have hell to pay in that lane. And it meant that Goo was power farming. It meant that all the other lanes were sacrificed. And you can already see Furia, they've accrued an 1,000 gold advantage from the CS in jungle and their side lanes in addition to the kills that went down.
I think the only saving grace is the fact that Goot is the one that got those 2 early kills, right? It's going on to the tank, but the faster he gets onto that demonic embrace, the more the game starts rolling. It's not quite the same, the Sejuani and the Maokai, because the Maokai can just give you so much magic damage into the early game, chewing through that percent health, thanks to the demonic embrace that Aegis is going to provide. So now he's down a camp, but he's got himself a Bomby Cinder, so doing all right with what he was given. But like you said, Hawk, 1,000 gold is the advantage. Taking the dragon kind of on spawn here is Goot, and his lane's pushing up. The only thing that could really make this go wrong are mid-jungle on either side, but Envy doing his best to shove out his lane. But they're scrapping away there.
We are really feeling the echoes of that botch mid gank as well, because Aegis then spending so much time trying to make a mid play work, forced to go farm all of his camps, and it meant that Titan had no assistance on that wave. Drops a wave and a half to 2 waves. Goot able to take the dragon. It's full control for Furia everywhere on the map. And again, I just can't stress this enough. I feel like a broken record, but this team has to get ahead to be able to power through the Soraka comp in the mid game. And so far, this is what they need. Now, if you are Red, you've got the Soraka comp. You've got the ability to scale up once you maybe hit Moonstone or Shurelya's, whatever they go, and become unkillable. But once these objectives start falling, like subsequent dragons, like Herald, if you force Red to fight too early around these future objectives, it gets so difficult for them to win this game because they won't have the critical items online yet.
Red playing for that late game. Furia struggling at the bottom of the table. Again, 2 and 5. They need a get right opportunity. And Red, they threw the playbook out a little bit in draft. We were critical of some of the choices that were made, but this draft does have an identity, right? It's one side of it is draft, one side of it is execution. And so far, Red, they've got their win conditions, right? They've got their pain points, and they have dedicated a lot of resources to those early game points, which is okay. Bottom lane's going to survive, okay, right? But again, you drop 15 CS and Avenger, he's gotten himself ahead-ish, right? But it was an assist. It wasn't a kill. And Goot has been managing the early game very, very well for Furia. FNB, another carry threat potentially. He's going to have to be the big one on the other side, because for all that Trigo and Redbird can do in this bottom lane early, it's going to get a lot harder for him in the late game.
And it's going to be really difficult, too, because now Herald's spawning in about 15 seconds. What I would like to see from Red is see if they can find a skirmish of some kind around this Herald or get there first with 5 members. It's not possible at this point in the game for them to fight into Furia's combo. You can see Titan and Curry roaming up first, which does mean that they will have an advantage. Because despite the gold and all that has gone down, you do still have a Sejuani, Jax, and Akali, champions that are very down to scrap in low numbers fights early on into the game. So Furia, they're pulling their members up now, but without the Heimer turrets set up, it is a very dangerous prospect to fight into Red.
Redbird walks right over that control ward. They grab the Herald, say thank you very much, and it is a low numbers fight, and it's a fight that is advantageous in numbers for Red. Nature's Grasp goes out. Avenger eats that, jumps right over it, says thank you very much, Goot. This is my river now. No blood spilled yet. Aegis going in under Redbird. He was trying to lay down some cover fire from the brush. FNB walks over a sight ward. Aegis has to flash away. Curry has to flash away as well. Caught on the other side of the barrier. No blood, no foul. Red have a tool in their pocket to try to get back into this one.
Bit of an overchase right there from Red, but they do get what they needed. They got that Herald. They were first to the play. So that's the kind of stuff that they need to get back into this game early on. You can't contest 5v5 if you're there second, but you can contest 5v5 if you're able to get there first and fight on your own terms. Break everything apart. They do trade back a couple of plates for Trigo, so it's not a complete win for Red, but a positive play nonetheless after a very rough early start.
Yeah, Trigo got himself some plates, and more importantly, some solo plates. But again, it's what do you do with that? He's got himself a pickaxe called boot advantage over Titan. That is not nothing, but Titan can exchange his standing gold for a pickaxe, narrow that gap just a little bit. But Redbird, yeah, he's kind of getting yanked around the map a little bit, right? FNB did a good job of getting his wave pushed down to prevent anything further for Red. It was a bit of an overchase, like he said, but it was just because Redbird and FNB got yanked into that fight that made it so that Red couldn't over chase. No big item spikes hit just yet, but Goot got himself some Merc Treads, and he's well on his way to that next item. Dragon going to be up here in just a little bit as well. Red doing a good job of making things happen in the early game, even if the Avenger angle didn't go too hot.
Well, unfortunately for them, Avenger has hit the point in this lane where he does have a lot of kill pressure. Level 6 on the Akali
Yep.
is that moment where the Orianna does need to play respectfully. So mid lane is going pretty even. So again, Red does not have that power vacuum that they were so afraid of. So in essence, I guess all the mid attention kind of worked,
Yeah.
even though it didn't really. But the problem is their side lanes are still getting destroyed.
Yeah, and this side lane going a very particular way. The CC layering, so nice. I mean, that's why, yes, Jhin has a lot of early base damage with those crits and whatnot, but it's the deadly flourish that makes this lane tick. The CC layering you can do is just silly.
And this is why jungle is such a hard role to play with 3 losing lanes, or the game in general is so hard to play with 3 losing lanes, because Aegis just can't be there to cover every lane that needs to be covered and farm camps at the same time. I mean, when your bot lane is getting 2v2'd in the middle of the lane, like what are you supposed to do? Because he's forced to cover Avenger on the push. He's forced to cover Bull when the lane is getting into him, and it's just so difficult. And Furia, they are leveraging this pressure so expertly. Dragon now back out onto the map. Red might want to try to fight for this as ultimates were blown from the bottom lane of Furia, but how do you walk into Heimer turrets? It's Furia there first.
Yeah, you got to walk into those Heimer turrets. That shockwave as well. Nature's Grasp is on, locked and loaded for Goot, and they opt to indeed just sacrifice it. Pressure leveraged very, very well. And they've put Titan in a spot where he has to value his lane so much, right? I mean, they're like, it's the kills, and then it's the fact that you were just repeatedly denying him CS. We're going to see exactly what went down here. Again, it's that deadly flourish, man, that makes this lane tick, and Redbird just dumped the CC on top of it. Oh.
I don't know if Titan didn't have the spell shield or what, but not flashing, not spell shielding, just gets killed. I mean, pretty big mistake from the Superstar ADC on Red. He's now 20 CS behind, a kill down, as you say, multiple plates as well. And now we're seeing Aegis forced to cover. But what's happening while Aegis is covering? Bull is also having a tough time. It's plates taken for FNB. Herald forced to just be summoned for a little bit of gold back into Titan. Because at this point, if you're Red, what you need to do to be able to win this game is just get gold onto your Soraka and Sivir as much as you can so that their item spikes aren't delayed even more than they already will be. Because again, this composition will hit a point where they're unkillable, but with how far behind they've fallen, it's so far away.
Yeah, and Trigo and Redbird, I guess, didn't reset after they got that 2v2 kill, whereas Titan did, right? He is behind, but he was able to reset and just dump to the damage down necessary to get Trigo and Redbird completely out of this lane. So you're right, it wasn't a value. Like, I play support and jungle, so like you, I'm sure we've been in this situation where you just, like, you're putting out fires everywhere, and then you go, son of a gun, I've got this Herald burning a hole in my pocket. I guess I'll just throw it here, right? You see the screen flash purple, you go, shit. I got to drop this somewhere. And it could have gone worse, but that shows you again that Aegis is just playing defense right now.
I think the only thing worse than seeing the purple screen flash when you weren't expecting it is when you accidentally summon the Herald thinking you had a sweeper.
Yep.
That's like top 10 worst feelings in the game. You really hate to see it. But fortunately, Aegis did not do that. He only did the next worst thing, which was just being forced to summon the Herald around bot. And again, getting gold onto bot lane was a good thing. But Furia, with first move out off the reset, they're already taking control of the top river. It means Red is going to be forced to give up this Herald. We can see them setting up for a cross map on the Envy. So maybe if they're able to get a kill as well as this bottom lane turret, first tower gold could be an advantage that they can potentially play for. But Aegis being on the top side of the map is making that difficult.
Yeah, and it's tough, right? Because he's just shadowing a potential dive from FNB. He's level 11. Bull sitting on a rank 1 ultimate right now. And FNB, he's got that mythic item going. The ADCs for each side are on equal footing as far as items. Gale Force online for Trigo. Kraken Slayer online for Titan. You see the discrepancy there in the plate gold, which actually isn't all that bad because that first Herald was taken by Red. But Goot, first purchase onto the second Herald. Trying to break this game open a little more. Won't be turret play gold because after the 14-minute mark, Envy able to sidestep there. The Glacial Prison, but the stun and the damage just too much. There's that kill you were talking about.
Okay, great cross map from Red. Able to get something back and not give up the Herald completely for free. It's not going to be first tower, but they will answer with the tower of their own. The question is, can Furia drop this Herald mid and take something? I think the answer is no. So overall, actually a pretty even trade. Yep. This is going to favor Red getting a lot of gold onto Titan.
Yep, he's the win con now, right? It's that bottom lane. You were playing to survive in the early game. Great. Now we pass you the ball. You say, go get us a bucket. That's what they got to do here. As Aegis, again, just putting out little fires everywhere. He's gotten that one objective, but it has been Furia controlling this game so far. Bull, even though he's had a tough time up in the top lane, there haven't been any solo kills, which FNB is known to do. He's not afraid to scrap. And he was first to his big item spike. He was sitting on that Frozen Fist while Bull playing it very well, right? Down pretty much half an item, just letting the waves crash into him. Having Aegis hover there was also nice, right? But once he left, Red decisive in making that play on the bottom side. The towers are even, and they've stemmed the bleeding, right? This gold lead has been at 2,000, it feels like, for about 5 or 6 minutes.
So, something I do want to point out, Envy opting for the Rod of Ages on this Orianna. Yeah. Now, I am not 1,000% sure on the math behind Rod of Ages as opposed to like the Lost Chapter items, but my thought process here is if your damage is going to fall off the more this game progresses, it would be better to get a Leandries and Spike now so that you continue to press your advantage instead of power troughing on a tier in a 3-stack Rod of Ages. It feels like Envy making a massive itemization mistake, and this actually might be a window for Red back into the game, because by the time 7 minutes from now, Rod of Ages is fully stacked, Curry's going to have Mythic, and Aegis has already got Mythic. Like, you're already going to be falling behind the pace of the game by the time that's done.
Bull counter-striking away any sort of additional advance from FNB. Oh, here comes the flank, but it's spotted out. Avenger playing backwards. They collapse. Here comes the big play from Red. Twisted Advance, or Nature's Grasp rather, out from Goot. Trigo taken completely out of the fight. They jump on the 80 carry. This is what you drafted Assassin for. Furia taken out of the fight. FNB goes all out and gets chunked out of the fight. Curry able to survive, keep his team alive, blew the wish already. Red come out on top. It was a nicely played collapse. They go for the dragon. Let's see if Furia try any sort of response here. Don't think they will.
And already you can see the lack of damage that Furia is dealing with in this composition. Whether or not it's Envy's Rod of Ages or what, they just get broken apart. Red was able to find a chink in the armor, a gap in the defenses of the Heimerdinger, and they were able to strike. Furia taking mid-tier 1 does at least give them something to continue pressing this game. But watching Red already winning a fight at just 17 and a half minutes is very concerning for Furia's prospect in this game.
And again, the gold lead is still 2,000, so certain numbers don't have you too worried, but the reality of what you just saw in front of you in that fight is what leaves you worried, like you're alluding to. And I'm glad you pointed out that power trough, too, because it's one thing to, you know, your Roa, you're opting for scaling, but couple that with a tier. Like, as a guy who, again, I play jungle and support, but the one champ I do play in the mid lane is Anivia, right? And I guess Rod of Ages is back, so I actually haven't tried her with the new Rod of Ages, but that's neither here nor there. I am used to a power trough in the mid game, right? You're playing for late. I'm just dropping down my ultimate to try to stack up the tier, but I feel pretty useless until that late game, especially when Trigo gets blown up like that immediately. You're just in so much deep doo-doo, and that's the Avenger Akali, man, coming out to play.
Right, and I feel like the Seraphs is fine. That item is just so strong right now. It's really the Rod of Ages that I'm looking at, but yeah, I don't want to harp on automation too much, because at the end of the day, Furia, just play better League of Legends than Red and you'll win. That's the 5-head analysis that I'm going to give on this one, but Red, they are getting those items. Curry has the Moonstone, so Soraka is here. Soraka's full build, baby. She's going to be healing everybody up significantly. And now it comes down to, can Furia find the engages that their team needs? Can they find the positioning that their team needs to deny Red's backline access in these fights? Because as far as just purely stat checking Red and one-shotting someone, it's going to be very difficult.
Yeah, that's not an option. And when Red are dictating the tempo, like they did in that previous fight, they were the ones that pulled off that pincer, right? Avenger got in behind, even though he was seen. By then, it was too late. You had Furia just kind of, looking both ways, going, well, what do we do? We've got a numbers advantage somewhere. But walking into the Heimer turrets, there weren't any Heimer turrets to walk into, right?
Right.
Now Redbird, he has hit a couple of big spikes. He's got that Oblivion Orb online. Grievous Wounds changes part of the fun stuff that's coming in that had come in 13.1b. It's now just there's not 2 levels anymore. It's just everyone gets 40% off the rip. So Oblivion Orb is stronger, but that Rylai's, that's the first big spike there for Redbird. And healing reduction is again, when I talk about hot button issues, that is like 1A with a bullet. But into this Soraka composition, pretty undeniable. You got to have something.
Yeah, it makes sense into the Soraka. And something I want to mention about that dragon fight as well is now that Red has won the dragon and stopped this whole stacking, they've actually afforded themselves the ability to not fight, which is just as important as the ability to fight so often in League of Legends if you are a scaling team, because the ability to not fight gives you options. It means you can play for gold. It means you can play for cross maps. It means that you don't have to fight into Furia if they do have the defenses set up. It basically gives you one get out of jail free card. Hey, we can't take this dragon. No worries. We look at the next one, wait for items to come online, wait for a better situation. And that is something really important. And Red, as a top of the table team, has shown an ability to recognize when not fighting is sometimes the move as they back away from the TP and top.
Yeah, no, and that's what top teams do, right? It's self-awareness. It's recognizing your win conditions. That is when we say draft and execution, that's what we mean. That's execution. You draft yourself certain win conditions in this Soraka Sivir in the bottom lane with, a true tank and just a well-balanced team composition. That is what you have to do. Now on the other side, Trigo, he has hit his 2-item spike, which again, for those of you keeping score at home, 13-1B, he is on that crit threshold there. That used to be 65% or 60%, but now it is just 40%. So the only thing Jin is missing there from his unholy trinity is those Swifty boots, but he wanted to get onto that before this dragon fight.
And Envy as well, about to have the Roa proc. I wonder how close the Seraphs is as well. Been sitting on those components for a little while. I don't think he has it yet. So pretty critical item spike that won't be there, but I agree. Trigo is the guy that we are watching. But again, Red, they have afforded themselves options. They're actually opting to control the top side of the map, maybe threaten for a Baron and just force responses out of Furia. Because when you're against a composition that wants you to fight into them, don't let them. Force them to march to the beat of your own drum by threatening to cross map. And that seems to be exactly what Red is doing.
Well, that's been the theme for them, right? They've been responding. The early game did not go too hot for them. But in the mid game, again, this gold lead has been at somewhere between 1,000 and 2,000, been fluctuating there for about 15 minutes now. And that's progress if you're Red, right? The gold lead has stayed the same. But as far as the dynamics of this game and the team compositions and the win conditions and all those fun buzzwords, Red are gaining ground. Furia do in fact start up this dragon, and with the damage that Red have, right, even though they don't have 2 items on the Sivir just yet, they can at least threaten this Baron, but Furia call in their bluff. Let's see what Red do in response, if anything.
So nicely done from Furia. As you said, call the bluff. They just take the dragon, but we can see the amount of control that did go down for Red. They have access into Furia's jungle on the top side of the map, which means it's going to be more difficult for Furia to set up for the team fight around Baron. I do think that's where the game will really come down to. It's either going to be a Baron or a soul fight in 4.5 minutes. I don't think there's any other way it comes from anywhere else. So I've got my eyes on that big purple worm in the top side of the map. And Furia, notably, they do have the pick potential of the Sejuani as well as the rotation power of the Sivir. So looking for a pick on a side lane as the map has gotten more open up is one way that you could look to disrupt Furia again. So they have options, despite the fact that the early game went so south. At this point in the game, the 1.5k gold lead doesn't mean too much in the grand scheme of things.
No, it really doesn't. Well, what's going to define it is, again, item spikes on V80 carries, especially, right? Trigo, he was your win condition kind of in the early game. FNB and Bull still been largely absent from this game, but you hit the nail right on the head. These late game team fights are where it's all going to come down to, and FNB and Bull are going to have to be present. This has been just 6 kills through 25 minutes. Both these teams playing very, very cautiously. It's worrisome a little bit if you are Furia, but I appreciate also that you highlighted that Red, they can team fight kind of 5v5 a little bit better. They scale a little bit better. If Curry can stay safe and just raid heal everybody on this team, it's going to be really, really tough for Furia to do anything with the damage that they've drafted themselves, but also play through those side lanes. And even if they are going to surrender an objective here, a control point here, the least they could do is set up vision to respond with that side lane pressure. And you talked about how they lit up that top side with red wards. Well, now Furia have taken control of that again. That Baron has been sitting there, but no one having enough confidence to pull a trigger on it just yet.
So something that we haven't really talked about is not only is Red scaling generally better in the team fight, but they also have a very powerful 1-3-1. Avenger and Bull, they have hit the point in the game where they've both scaled, and Envy and FNB are just simply not able to match one-on-one. They have to concede pressure to this Jax and Akali in the sides, which if still we're talking about ways that Red could dislodge Furia's defenses. Splitting up the map and shoving waves and forcing responses is another way to do it. So the longer this game has gone, the more options that Red has put in their toolkit, the harder it is for Furia to do something. And honestly, I think we're getting to the point in the game where Furia, it might be at this soul in 2 minutes. You've just got to flip it and say, we need to get a game-winning advantage right now.
Yeah, and then it's what can Red do in response, right? When Furia are first to objectives with things like the Heimerdinger, you can, again, you force Red to fight into you, but Red now can say, actually, we like we talked about last fight, we don't have to fight into you. We can threaten a Baron. You want that, that Mountain Soul, to be fair, is going to feel good for Furia and the composition that they're running, but Red, again, they could just play the map out better with a Baron buff. That is more valuable to them, so they're happy to flip that if need be. Furia not completely conceding control of it. Dragon up for another minute 32, but the Baron is up, and the fight is starting. Aegis in. Titan pops the ultimate, trying to get his team a little bit closer. He's got his Ghost as well, so if he wants to close the gap a little more, he can. FNB trading fire back, or at least trying to. Avenger off doing his own thing. He's got the Unleashed TP, whereas Envy does not. He's looking for a flank, and that will be that. Man, this game's on a knife's edge, man.
Red, again, they're just bullying Furia out of the positions that they want. And then once it seems like Furia is going to set up with 5, Red simply backs away. You can see this scaling composition starting to flex its muscles as Furia forced to take a base, and it's Red bearing down on mid-tier 1.
Such a crucial objective that actually hasn't been taken by a Red squad that has otherwise exerted complete control over this map, or at least certain parts of it. That is a little surprising that that's kind of their first touch onto mid-tier 1. That feels like the first bastion that has to go down, but the side lane tier 1s have gone down. That's part of the pressure that they're able to create. 20 seconds until what will likely be, if not a game-deciding fight, something that'll push the pace and certainly put one team out in front. We think it's going to be Red. They're first to the objective in the crucial 20 or 30 second window beforehand. The Scuttle Crab vision, the control wards. Furia trying to encroach.
4x4, they're forced to fight for this too. They're forced to walk in because they can't rush Baron because they have a Jhin. It's such a horrible pick. Oh, it limits their options so much.
And Jhin is going to use his ultimate to do this.
Nothing. It's nothing. He's doing nothing. It's so hard, but this composition's not built to run at Red. That's exactly what Red wants.
Now, Avenger, he's looking for a flank, and obviously Furia know that. They say, look, we got 4 members here, so it means Avenger's up there. There goes all the CC. Avenger actually walks over a trap, and he proto-belts in, closes the gap a little bit. He's taken out of the fight for now. Bull, maybe in some trouble, trying to get a stunning strike in, but Envy able to take down Titan, and now Aegis in some trouble here. Play this fight backwards. Our Furia, that is not a coordinated engage from Red. Red pulled the trigger, but they pulled 2 triggers in 2 completely different directions.
Okay, Furia able to find the backbreaking fight. That is what they needed. It's going to be Soul. It's going to be Baron as well. Red, they had all the cards in their hands, and then they decided to flip and engage. I have no idea what they were thinking, but great punish from Furia.
They fought well. They fought well, man. And you saw the damage graph there. Goot dealing twice as much damage as anyone else. Now, you can take that one of 2 ways. Wow, that's really, really cool. You have damage coming from sources that aren't your carries. But Lord have mercy, your carries got to do more.
You really do. I mean, I see what they're going for. Hey, let's try to get a pick onto Goot, force him out, and then get the dragon, right? We don't want to flip this. But the problem is Malachi has some of the premier re-engage in the entire game. And also with Aftershock, Goot is just so tanky. Radiant Virtue as well. This is not your typical demonic embrace Mal. So there is just no way in hell you're cutting down that tree quickly enough. And it's a botched engage from Red. Again, I see what they were going for, but man, that is a huge blunder. Just when it felt like Furia was out, they are right back in.
And now Envy, he is fully out of that power trough. Orianna got some buffs, man. That base damage on that shockwave, that's going to hurt a little bit more. Once he gets that death cap, that is a scary clock lady. And now pushing out with this Baron, like you said, it wasn't just a lost fight or a botched engage. It was Soul and Baron, and Furia making Red pay, getting the most out of this Baron buff. If they could get an inhib right here, chef's kiss for Furia. They played that fight out so well. The initial engage was there. They fought that off, and then they pounced on Avenger, didn't allow him to do anything. Here comes another curtain call, more just to bail out FNB and dissuade a punish from Red. Furia, hats off, man. This is really good stuff from them.
And by taking that inhibitor, now they can reset play on 2 lanes, mid and top. Yep. The game is just so clinical right now for them. It is true. I mean, credit to them for being able to find the fight that they needed and being able to punish the mistake from Red. And now Red, I mean, on the ropes in another game. I think it was pretty surprising to a lot of people when they lost to Kaboom, especially in the fashion that they did lose in. And now they are on the receiving end of a Furia engage.
Yeah, he didn't see this coming. Titan puts up the spell shield, didn't end up needing it, but had to pop his flash. And he's down the Ghost as well and the ultimate. Aegis coming to clean it up, but Furia, like you said, they can play on 2 lanes. You exert a point of pressure without putting any bodies there by taking that inhibitor down. And I think there's a lot of swirlies on the ground, but I think they still got that Baron buff as well. Yes, they do. FNB looking for a way over the wall. Another part of that fight was he took Aegis completely out of that fight, right? Goot's re-engage was great on that Maokai like you were talking about. And then FNB just putting a beat down onto Red's main tank in that back line. Oh, baby. The counter-strike doesn't do a ton here. Really good Nature's Grasp from Goot to make sure that that inhibitor take was as safe as possible. Now 6,000 gold up, playing this game out very methodically for Furia.
So the one thing Red currently has going for them is Titan is on 3 items. Navori Quick Blades and Phantom Dancer are here for the Sivir, and especially if you can get to Lord Dominic's regards, maybe there's a world in which the AD carry of Red can just 1v9 the game and bring it back. But you can see Furia's ability to brute force with their gold advantage, 5,500 in the lead. They just simply run forward and force Red back, because even though Titan, hey, on 3 items, pretty good. Sivir win conditions there. Well, you got Envy and Trigo. They've been sitting on 3 items. They are primed and ready to go right now.
Yeah, and credit Furia, right? Because it's been a bad season for them so far. But this mid game and late game has been very, very good, right? It seems like a very self-aware mid game from them. Red, this game is not over. Furia in the lead, but Red still hold plenty of cards, like we've been saying. And the ace has been Titan for them as a player and in this game on the Sivir. But Furia, they're throwing their wallets at Red right now and doing things like this to make their objective takes as good as possible. And now Bull taken completely out of the fight. He's got to go forward. FNB takes him down. It's a 5v4. He goes all out. He's just trying to punish, but it's not enough. The range advantage is being played on here by Furia. Trigo laying down the deadly flourishes, rooting members of Red Canids in place. And they're going to take down another tower. That could be 3 inhibitors and potentially the Game Hawk. Here we go. Last stand. Hail Mary for Red, unless, of course, Furia opt not to continue with the engage. They swap their focus to the mid lane.
FNB's got the teleport as well. They want to end right now. I've heard Rude Dude say it. His favorite strat in the game is when you give up the first 4 dragons and then flip a soul. Red maybe thinking about it, but Furia doesn't want to let him. They're gonna go.
The TP engage was in. Now here comes FNB. He is all in and all out. Avenger into the back line, trying to take down somebody, but Trigo is being shielded. Redbird laying down damage as well. They are down Bull. It's still a 5v4. Nexus exposed. Here goes FNB, taking up a lot of space in that front line, but here comes Bull. He's back, gets the CC down. Trigo taken out of the fight for now. It's to pop a stopwatch. Goot in. The Nexus finally being chipped away at.